Ms. Schenck, you claim that when your daughter Serenity turned 2, Mr. Robinson began to doubt paternity.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, since then, you claim he's pulled away from your child and it's now breaking your heart to watch her suffer.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Robinson, you state from the moment Serenity was born, you were actively involved in her life and developed a very strong bond.
Yes, Your Honor.
However, when Ms. Schenck suddenly stated you may not be her biological father and started to pursue DNA testing of another man, you pulled away.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you're hoping DNA results prove you are Serenity's father so you can once again feel close to your little girl.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Mr. Robinson, I want to understand what happened that changed everything for you as it relates to your little girl.
Well, Your Honor, up to 2 years of Serenity's life, I was there for her and Mrs. Schenck until about 5 months. She was 5 months pregnant. She told me that I may not be her father because she slept with a friend.
So hold on, take me back. You said you were there for her, meaning when you found out Ms. Schenck was pregnant, you thought you were having a baby.
Yes, ma'am.
It was never ever mentioned to you that there could possibly be another father.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you say you were there, give me details.
I was there through all her doctor's appointments. Each and every doctor's appointment, I was there. Even for Serenity, when she was born, I was there for her, helping her out with her.
Were you two in a relationship?
Not in an actual relationship. We was dealing with each other off and on.
Off and on?
Yes, ma'am.
Sexual relationship?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so she told you she was pregnant, you believed her. You said, okay, and I'm there.
Yes, ma'am.
Doctor's appointments, everything.
Yes, ma'am, I was there.
And then about 5 months, what happened?
She told me that she had slept with a friend of mine and didn't know if I was the father or if he was the father.
So she came clean?
Yes, ma'am.
So Ms. Schenck, that happened?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please talk to me, fill me in. When you found out you were pregnant, did you think he was the father or did you know right off the bat there could possibly be another father?
I didn't know. When I first found out I was pregnant, he was there, like he said. We were in an on and off relationship. Around the time I had slept with him, I did sleep with somebody else. And we did use protection. The condom did break, that's why I didn't. Oops.
So it was just, I understand, I know this is difficult. And I appreciate the fact that you're here to tell the truth, because that's what we need to get down to the bottom of this situation. So you were in an on and off relationship with Mr. Robinson.
Yes, Your Honor.
But you did sleep with someone else during the window of conception.
Yes.
There was an issue with the protection you used.
Yes, Your Honor.
So when you found out you were pregnant, did you immediately say it could be Mr. Robinson or the other guy, or did you say to yourself you felt like it was just Mr. Robinson because you'd only been with the other guy once?
Yes, Your Honor.
Was it just one time with the other guy?
Yes, Your Honor.
So when you finally decided to tell Mr. Robinson the truth, fill me in on that, because Mr. Robinson says he was there for you. He was going to doctor's appointments. He thought he was having a child. And when did you decide to tell the truth?
5 months into my pregnancy, he had went through my phone and seen a text message I had sent to my cousin saying it was a 50-50 chance that he couldn't have been the father.
I'm missing some facts, and I need you to fill me in, because you said when you found out you were pregnant, you said to yourself, he's the father, because I only had sex with this guy, the other guy, one time, and we used protection even though there was an issue, so he must be the father. What happened during those 5 months that made you realize or do the math and it added up to it really could potentially be this other man's child as well?
It didn't add up. It didn't add up, Your Honor.
What do you mean it didn't add up? It did add up, because you wouldn't have written that text if you didn't think that.
The condom broke when I slept with the other person.
Okay, so what I'm saying is when you found out you were pregnant, you said you really felt it was Mr. Robinson's baby. At what point did that feeling change for you so that you would send that text to your cousin? You were replaying it in your mind?
You can say that, yes.
Okay, so when the baby was born, you were there.
Yes, ma'am.
So after she told you, you said, I don't want to hear this news, but I'm still going to be there.
Yes, ma'am.
So that part of her testimony is correct.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you continued to be there?
Yes, ma'am.
Through the birth?
Through the birth, I was there.
There at the hospital?
Yes, ma'am. I was there through her whole pregnancy. I was there through her birth. The birth certificate, my name is on it.
And then now you have this beautiful little girl, and you step up and you're her father.
Yes, ma'am. Up until after when she told me that she had slept with somebody else, that's what made me push myself away from Serenity.
What, you knew that it was a 50-50 chance when she was 5 months pregnant?
Yes, ma'am.
But you still said you'd be there?
Yes, ma'am.
So at what point did you begin to step back from Serenity after she was born, and why? Because you already knew at 5 months.
I found out that she was having the other guy tested, or she wanted to get tested and didn't have me tested.
If you want more episodes of Paternity Court, make sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell. You made plans to have the other man tested?
Yes, but couldn't find him. Because when my daughter was first born, she didn't look anything like him. She looked just like the other man.
And so, as Mr. Robinson was bonding with the baby, really stepping up to the plate as father, in your mind, you're looking and you're saying, my baby looks just like the other guy.
Yes, Your Honor.
And I need to have him tested. You actually have another child with Mr. Robinson.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so you guys were on and off again, but you have another child together, and that child you say looks like him.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now you say Mr. Robinson now treats baby Serenity differently than your other child.
Yes, Your Honor.
Explain.
He'll call and talk to my son. Sometimes he'll talk to her, tell her he misses her and he loves her. And sometimes when he calls, like when he's with his family, he doesn't even ask to speak to Serenity. An example is a couple weeks ago, they came and him and his mother came and picked up my son. And my daughter was devastated because she couldn't go. She cried for about 20, 25 minutes. Even sometimes when my son talks to his father on the phone, and after he gets off, Serenity says, I want to talk to daddy, and my son says, that's not your daddy.
How would a child know to tell another child that's not your father? See, that's a child in grown folks' business, where he doesn't belong. That's TMI for a child. So now your son looks at your daughter and says, that's not your daddy.
Yes.
And she's brokenhearted.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, I want to hear from your witness. Ma'am, please step up. State your name for the court.
I'm Donna Schenck. I'm Brittany Schenck's mom.
Okay. Ms. Schenck, thank you for joining us today. What have you observed of the situation?
Well, first I'd like to say that I'm here today to support my daughter. I totally understand why Mr. Robinson pulled away from my daughter Serenity, granddaughter Serenity. I was in a similar situation with my son, and after 5 months of bonding with this child, to find out that it was not my grandchild, it broke my heart. So I don't want my granddaughter to be 21 and find out that this man is not her father.
So as you look at Serenity, your granddaughter, do you see Mr. Robinson? Your daughter says she doesn't see his face.
When at first I didn't, which is why I understood why my daughter wanted to have someone else tested, because Serenity looks like him. My grandson is very dark skinned. Serenity is brown skinned like the other man. They have the same facial features, the eyes, the nose. And as she grew teeth and got a little older, she's now beginning to look like Mr. Robinson. So I just want an end to the question so that they can begin.
Yes.
But I think that Serenity looks like me. I have a picture of the both of us.
Jerome, will you hand me that, please? And this is, sir?
That is Serenity and myself.
As babies?
Yes, ma'am.
And you say you see a resemblance?
Yes, ma'am.
How about you, Ms. Schenck?
I can say yes and I can say no. I think Serenity looks like him. They both have a prominent gap in their teeth. We don't have gaps in our family, in our teeth, and he and his mom do. So like I said, as she's gotten older, she is starting to favor Mr. Robinson. But I mean, you can't go by that. We know that.
We definitely have seen in this courtroom, there have been many times when a child, we want to believe a child looks like a certain man because we want that man to be their father because he wants to be.
Right.
But it often does not turn out the way we hoped. I want to ask you, Ms. Schenck, have you noticed at all Mr. Robinson treating Serenity differently? I know of late your daughter spoke of him not picking her up.
Yes,
Have you noticed the effects it's had on Serenity?
It's caused a lot of confusion. You touched on earlier about my grandson. He's 4, but he's 44. So he is very intelligent, and he doesn't understand how now we're saying that your daddy and Serenity's daddy, because that's not what was told to him. That's for the last 2 years. So he's confused.
What I'm hoping is that he hasn't overheard grown folks' conversations, because I have a 4-year-old too.
Exactly.
And they know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
And they pick it up. And the very line you don't want them to say is the one they repeat.
Exactly.
So, all right. So, Mr. Robinson, your mom sent in a video statement, and we'd like to hear from her.
I think that Serenity may not be Jamaria's daughter because Brittany went out and cheated on Jamaria with one of his friends or associates that he knew. So, and then she told Jamaria that the child wasn't his. When she gave him the information that it may not have been his, he was really hurt. I mean, he was hurt, crying hurt. So, yeah, I did try to express to him not to get close to this child until he knew for sure. I did tell him that one day the truth will come out.
So, Mr. Robinson, we've heard your mother just speak on your behalf, and she says it really broke your heart to have to pull away, and that she encouraged you to.
Yes, ma'am.
Until you know. How badly is it hurting you?
I mean, it's devastating, actually. Like I said, I never denied a child, and I hope that she is mine.
And so, the truth is, your hopes have remained constant.
Yes, ma'am.
You hoped she was yours when you found out she was pregnant.
Yes, ma'am.
You've hoped she was yours when you found out there could potentially be another man, and you're still hoping this baby is yours, even though you feel like it was right to pull away from her until you know for sure.
Yes, ma'am.
And Ms. Schenck, what are your hopes?
My hopes is for these two to begin co-parenting, and that we find out an answer today, because my grandchildren deserve to have the best parents that they can get.
And how about you, Brittany? Ms. Schenck, what are your hopes today?
My hopes today are that Mr. Robinson is Serenity's father. I don't want to see my baby go through the same things I went through.
And when you say you went through?
I grew up without my father. The last time I seen my father, I believe I was 6. He just now is reaching out to me, so we're working on that. But I want my baby to do better than me and have better than me.
That's understandable. Do you know where the other man is, if in fact Mr. Robinson is not Serenity's biological father?
I know where he is, but I don't think he's willing to do a DNA test.
So a lot's riding on this result today, because you believe if Mr. Robinson is not Serenity's biological father, she loses that connection to a father because the other man, you say, is not interested in being involved in her life.
Yes, Your Honor.
I think it's time for the results. Jerome? These results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics, and they read as follows. In the case of Schenck versus Robinson, when it comes to 2-year-old Serenity Schenck. In the case of Schenck versus Robinson, when it comes to 2-year-old Serenity Schenck. Jamario Robinson is her father. How do you feel, Mr. Robinson?
I feel great.
Good.
I feel great.
And so now when we go pick up child number 1, we also get our little girl too, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Brittany Ms. Schenck, your daughter does have the father. She so desperately deserves. I'm so happy for you, and I see how relieved you are. Now I see you're having another baby.
Yes.
I have to ask.
I know who the baby daddy is.
We know who the father
Yes.
is, and it's not Mr. Robinson.
No, ma'am.
So you all are off now. No more on, off, just off. And we're gonna learn to co-parent, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And take care of the 2 beautiful children we have together, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's what I wanna hear. The court has resources for you. If you need help pulling all of this together, I wish you all the very best of luck and good luck on the
Thank
brand new
you.
baby as
Thank
well. Court is adjourned.
I'll go ahead and walk you all out.
Ms. Jenkins, you say after 23 years, you are here to finally prove to your college sweetheart that he is your daughter, Marquisa's biological father. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Crockett, you say Ms. Jenkins was having sex with several men while you were in college, and you are positive you are not her daughter's father. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Ms. Jenkins, why, after 23 years, are you so sure Mr. Crockett is your daughter's father?
Well, recently me and Corey just reconnected, and we were dating back in college, so he has to be the possible father.
You all dated back in college,
Yes, Your Honor.
and now you believe 23 years later that he is your daughter's biological father?
Yes, Your Honor.
And so, Mr. Crockett, you don't believe that?
No, Your Honor.
Why?
Because she's not my child, you know.
That she is not your child. You do not believe Marquisa's your biological child.
Yes, Your Honor. And plus, she has another man's last name.
Take me back to the beginning of this relationship, Miss Jenkins.
Okay, so in 1993, me and Corey had met in band camp. Mind you, I had a boyfriend back at home. But of course, we had an instant attraction. And then I was also messing with a guy from my church.
Oh,
But
so you were in college,
yes, ma'am.
and you said there were 3?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were messing with Mr. Crockett?
Yes,
and
Your Honor.
who else? The guy from high school?
Yes,
that
Your
was
Honor.
back at home? And somebody at church?
Yes, Your Honor.
So how did this relationship start?
So I was in college. I mean, I was having the time of my life. I was doing what most college students do.
You started having sex.
Yes,
Were you boyfriend and girlfriend at the time?
not at all.
Did you know Mr. Crockett? She had 2 other boyfriends?
No, I didn't.
How do you remember this relationship?
We was both in band. You know, I played the drums, she played the clarinet. She did a little flag twirling, and then one of my friends came and told me she liked me, so we kind of hooked up from then on, and we was having sex, and just went from there.
So, Miss Jenkins, take me to the point you find out you're pregnant.
So I was at school and I got extremely sick, didn't have no clue as to what was going on with me. So I went to the local health department and I found out I was 4 months pregnant.
4 months.
4 months. And I didn't tell nobody because I was scared because I knew I had been sleeping with several guys. I was terrified to tell my mom. It came down to where I had no choice but to tell her.
Who did you tell her the father was of the baby? Your mother?
My high school sweetheart.
Okay.
And I really didn't have to tell her. She just assumed because that's who they knew I was with.
So, Mr. Crockett, did you ever know Miss Jenkins was pregnant?
No, Your Honor.
You never told him you were pregnant?
Never. I never told him.
She called me up one day, Your Honor, and told me to come pick her up, and I went and picked her up, and we hung out, and we had sex, you know, and when she put her clothes back on, she reached in her back pocket and pulled this picture out and was like, "Do you think this baby's yours?" And I was like, "No." Then I showed my grandmother, And I asked my grandmother, do you think this baby is mine? And my grandmother was like, no. So from then on.
What? Wait a minute, Miss Jenkins, you go over to his house to have sex, and when you get done, you just pull the baby picture out and said, does this look like you?
I did. Yes,
You
Your Honor.
did that?
I did that. Well,
Why'd you do it like that?
Can I just take you back for a minute? Cause
Please do.
Kind of, when she was born, she's maybe about 3 weeks old. So I'm like, me and my high school sweetheart, we're extremely dark skinned. So this baby high yelling, I'm like, this can't be his baby, So I'm just
Oh, so you're saying the baby comes out
Yeah.
and she's very fair skinned.
Yes, and she hasn't.
So when you had the baby, your high school sweetheart accepted the baby as his. What happens at that point when you're having the baby?
Well, he's away, but his family, his parents accepted it. But me, I knew because I knew what I was doing. And so I felt like, I was like, this can't be. And then, so I mentioned it to the other guy from my church, and I informed him, I said, this may be your baby. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, well, you've been there, so hey, it's a possibility that this may be your baby. I didn't even know he told his mother until she came to me at church and informed me. She's like, do you mind us, getting the blood test just to make sure? I said, no, not at all. So then that happens. We get a blood test.
You do? Okay.
We have a blood test, and it comes back negative. He's not the father.
When you told him and it was negative, you've never at this point really told the high school sweetheart that Marquisa's not his, or you don't think she is.
Mm-hmm. I went right back to just like I was like, well, it must be his.
Came back like you never left.
Yeah, like it never, exactly.
Marquisa thinks that your high school sweetheart is her biological father.
Yes, Your
She's
Honor.
never been told anything different.
Never.
And now you're here to prove that, in fact, the high school sweetheart is not her biological father, but Mr. Crockett is.
Yes, Your Honor.
I think it's time to hear from Marquisa. I want to know what she has to say.
Ooh.
Jerome?
And stand right next to the judge. Watch your step.
So, Marquisa, thank you for joining us today. I want to understand, you grew up thinking your mom's high school sweetheart was your biological father.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what you always believed.
Yes, ma'am.
Nobody told you any different.
No, ma'am.
And you were never led to believe anything different.
No, ma'am.
At what point were you told that there could be another possibility?
When my mom and Corey got back together, that's when my mom brought it to me that Corey may be my father. Just now, like recently, probably like a week before we came, I just found out that he wasn't the father.
Miss Jenkins, you just told your daughter 1 week ago
I just told her.
that the man she believed was her biological father for 23 years really was not?
Yes, Your Honor.
And how did you determine that?
I had him tested when she was 13. Like I said, I wanted child support, and so he wasn't complying with child support, so he felt like he wasn't gonna pay child support unless he had a DNA. So we had the DNA, I had her swab, he got swabbed, and the results came back that he was negative also.
And you knew this when she was 13.
I knew.
And so you just didn't tell her for 10 years?
I didn't say absolutely nothing. Pretty much, I'm raising her. She's growing up in a loving, environment. So I put it to the back of my mind.
So for these 10 years, she's still interacting with the high school boyfriend's family? Are they still coming around, or just all of a sudden they all disappear at 13?
In and out, like she said.
They're just in and out.
In and out. Yeah.
And so all this time, Marquisa, you feel like your father is just sometimey, coming and going as he pleases, never knowing that at 13 it was determined he really was not your biological father.
Right. At first, we didn't really have a father-daughter relationship because he was in and out of my life. Like, he was never consistently there. When him and my mom got back together, when I was about 11 or 12. Then at that point, we started to kind of build a relationship. And in between then, we experienced Hurricane Katrina together. He was there for me. He taught me like a lot of stuff during that time. But then after that, him and my mom broke up. And then he went back to the same thing, and he was in and out. He was never really there.
And so at what point, Ms. Jenkins, do you then turn to Mr. Crockett and decide he could be her biological father?
Well, like I said, once me and Corey got back together, our family, our friends, and now everybody's, questioning us and asking, is that Corey's baby? Is that Corey's baby? And a lot of people telling us they look alike. So that's when it really,
So you just reconnected with Mr. Crockett?
Last year.
And once you reconnected, you said the family started saying that Marquise is his baby.
They favor.
And because you admittedly had slept with 3 different men, you DNA tested the first 2, came out negative. By process of elimination, you said that it must be Mr. Crockett.
Yes, Your
because
Honor.
these are the 3 men I was sleeping with at the time.
Yes, Your Honor.
So had you not reconnected with Mr. Crockett and started to have a relationship, would you have ever told your daughter that he potentially could be her biological father?
No, not at all. I wouldn't have.
You was never gonna tell me.
I never, honestly, I never would have told.
That's what we do here. We tell the truth. We want the truth. So you said you would have never told.
Because, I raised her. She, I did a good job, so I just...
I understand as a parent, like, you probably in your heart feel like you was doing the best thing to protect me, but I'm grown now, and, like, I deserve to know that. And
I understand that.
And now I just feel like I'm at that age where, like, if I want to have kids or whatever have you, I have a last name that is not my last name because I have no relation to him.
Mr. Crockett,
Yes,
you've heard Marquisia speak beautifully about what this means to her. You've heard Ms. Jenkins testify quite honestly. I mean, she's put it out there today. Do you believe Marquisia is your biological daughter?
No, I don't think she's mine.
Why? I mean, there were 3 men she was sleeping with. She's had 2 tested. You're the 3rd one. Why don't you believe it?
Look at them. Can I show you?
Is this proof you've brought, an exhibit? Let me see.
I'm 5'3", Keisha's 5'7", Marquisia's 6'1". She has, her father has to be tall.
But your son's tall.
Well, wait a minute. Her mother's tall. What's the point? You just believe because you are not that tall and Marquisia is so tall, there's no way.
Yes, Your Honor.
But if she DNA tested 2 other men, the other men that she openly admitted here today, I was at college sowing my oats, doing way too much, but I've had them tested and the answers was negative. Mr. Crockett is the only other person I was sleeping with. That doesn't in some way sway your thought?
No, Your Honor.
It should if I've had 2 other guys tested. So why wouldn't you think that, you knew you was there? So you were possible, if anything.
Correct. Yeah. Well,
You do believe you are a possibility. You agree to that? Or you believe she's not my daughter?
no, my possibility, yeah.
And why do you feel that way? Because she's tall.
Yes.
And then
I
he
guess
also
we've heard
say-
worse, Jerome. We comparing toenails in here and everything else, so. Are you just trying to be kind because you all have reconnected and you don't want to say it? I'm gonna say it for you, and then you can just tell me if I'm right or not. Is it your testimony that you believe possibly there was at least one more person, and that person or someone else may be the biological father?
I don't know, because, she done had 2 other guys tested, so.
I'm not gonna make you talk anymore. Not that you was gonna do it anyway. Jerome, I think it's time for the results. These results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics and they read as follows. In the case of Jenkins versus Crockett, when it comes to 23-year-old Markesia, it has been determined by this court. Mr. Crockett, you are not the father. You are not the father, sir. Markesia, are you okay, hon? I know you were hoping for the closure today.
Yeah.
You've been very strong, but I can only imagine what it feels like to just not know. Mom, Ms. Jenkins, you see the tears in your daughter's eyes. And quite frankly, you came here to testify to sleeping with 3 men, and I do not mean this in a funny way, I mean this earnestly. Why not say 4? Right. Where is this other guy? Do you know who it is?
No, Your Honor.
You can't remember being intimate with anybody else?
Besides those 3.
This is difficult. And is it possible that you could go back to friends or relatives or people from that time and ask some questions? Because at the end of the day, this is not really a study of your sexual habits in college. This is a very real attempt to try to help your daughter identify who her biological father is, and she has stated so honestly and plainly that she deserves to know.